Hello, Falcon Paladin. Happy podcast day.
The happiest of podcast days.
Yeah. I mean, are you planning on rewriting our theme song?
No.
Would you like to?
Nope.
Oh, okay. But you've got such a musical voice, and you were just showing it off. I assume that's what was that's what was happening.
You started singing, and I just went along with it.
True enough. Can't.
I should ask you if you were planning to rewrite the theme song.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I started singing, but I can't sing. Like, you're very well aware of that.
Sure.
You don't want me to sing it. God, it'd be terrible. But you could make that work.
I could. I don't want to, so.
Okay. I'll add that to a list of things I want you to never do, but you'll never do.
Yes.
Second book, sing the podcast theme, play something other than ultras every game.
Yep.
Just not going to happen. God, can I just say, I was really annoyed. Really annoyed. I pulled up a certain little cast you did, 3v3 Masters, and the first thing out of your mouth was like, oh, Summercron's going, Gateway Cybercore Expand. Oh, he needs to find a build because he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. There's a direct quote, ladies and gentlemen. Ignoring the entire fact that at the start of that game while we were playing, you were like, hey, we know the other team guy's going to go Carrier. Do you just want to go straight to Tempest? And you're like, this guy's got no build, despite the fact he's doing exactly what I told him by just going to Tempest. Like, that's...
The secrets. The secrets are out.
I was mad. 2 minutes into that video.
Entirely fair. And you remain mad to this day.
To this day. I mean, I watched it today. So...
Reasonable indeed.
Yeah.
I do apologize. My 3 brain cells forgot about that.
I'll forgive you this time, but never again. Yeah, one chance.
Deal. One strike and you're out.
Yep. That's how baseball works.
It is. Mm-hmm. And the kids are in the other room. One of their
I heard.
uncles let them borrow his Nintendo 64.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So they're playing Mario Party and very rambunctious.
Fair enough. Good for them.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Every kid's got to discover the magic of Mario Party on the N64 at some point, I suppose.
I've never played it.
You haven't ever played Mario Party on N64?
I've never played Mario Party.
Oh. Well, your life is probably enriched thereby. Mario Party is not a good game.
Oh, really?
No, it's really not.
Oh, okay.
Ridiculous amounts of RNG in that thing. Like, the whole point is to get more stars than your opponent. And there's, like, ways to get it. But, like, there's also this random bullshit stuff where, like, hey, you stepped on the hidden block. You can take a star from somebody. And it's like, hooray! So many fights when that happens.
That sounds like a great game to hand to kids.
Yeah. I mean, it teaches them that life is unfair, I suppose.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
They were, So the Mario Party 1 and 2 came with the borrowing of the N64, and they're like, man, the graphical difference between 1 and 2 is amazing. Apparently, in Mario Party 1, like, there's Donkey Kong in there. You can play as him, but he's, like, super polygon, and his face looks horrible. And then by 2, it's like, oh, they figured out how to, like, round some of these edges and, like, give Donkey Kong a face that makes it look like Donkey Kong and not some eldritch horror.
Fair enough.
Like, oh, nice job, everyone.
Good job.
But, like, on the same console. But I guess that's how that works with consoles, though, right? Early gen stuff is like, we're not quite sure what we're doing.
And then by the end,
time goes on.
We've worked out every corner we can cut, and to get even that tiny little bit more power out of the system we've got. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially with the Nintendo consoles, it feels like that's the case. So.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Anywho. All right, we got a lot to talk about. We can't talk about Nintendo.
Yeah. No.
Sorry,
let's start with the Katowice.
Okay. Katowice.
Yeah. because we earned Katowice, and they just kept referring to this as Katowice, and then at some point they were like, and the winners and like people who get to like the quarters will be invited to the Esports World Cup. I'm like, what the fuck's the Esports World Cup? I've never heard of this. Why are you not referring to this as the World Championship? As that's what this is. Katowice is the World Championship. Yeah, and so I had to look up what the Esports World Cup is. It's apparently a tournament being held in Saudi Arabia. And winning here will get you an invite. I didn't even see a date on the Wikipedia page.
Like winning here or making it to the semifinal?
I think I don't remember.
One person goes or a bunch of people go?
I think a bunch of people go. You can't have a tournament with just one person.
Right. So they just totally neutered Katowice. It's not the World Championship anymore.
Right.
But...
So
have them play a full tournament in Katowice if it's not, and then they just take the finalists from Katowice and say this is the World Championship after they've already played the semifinals.
So here's the thing. I found the Esports World Cup 2024. Right, doesn't even have a date on it. It's got 18 players. Winning ESL, Masters, Summer, Winter, and Spring will all get you an invite. Right. So winter was Clem, summer was Serral, and then the top 4 from Kata also get to come. So Kyo, Maru, Dark, and Serral again. So Serral's got 2 spots.
You can win twice. Nice.
No, I think it just gives another slot to global standings for ESL points or whatever. But like, why is there just another tournament? Why does it not have a date associated with it already? Just as summer 2024.
And it's for the 2023 StarCraft 2 season year? Like...
Yeah, it's for this year.
And
I don't know. It's called Esports World Cup 2024. But Kata in 2024 this year is crowning the world champion for last year. That's kind of how it works. But they're qualifying for Esports World Cup this year. Is there going to be an Esports World Cup next year? Or are the Saudis going to be like, nah, we've thrown enough money at StarCraft now?
We did it once. We're done.
Yeah. We couldn't buy you out like golf, so we're just like backing out. Who knows? It was very confusing when I was listening to the stream and watching it that like they kept talking about this other tournament that has fuck all details.
Right. Okay, I'm going to ignore it.
Yep.
Moving on.
Yep.
Wow.
Moving on.
Yeah. So in ESL Winter, Serral got defeated by Clem in the quarterfinals, I think, or the semis, somewhere in there.
It was the finals, wasn't it?
Nope.
No?
I just looked this up.
Oh, it was Raynor at the finals, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Anyway, yeah, so it's just like, okay, so Terran's looking good, Cyclones are strong, there's maybe, kind of up in the air who's going to win Katowice at this point. I mean, obviously not Protoss because
no, of course not.
Because man, Protoss is struggling so hard. But then Serral in the group stage doesn't drop a map, and it's like, oh, hang on a second here.
Hold up.
Serral looks particularly locked in for this. And then he continued to look locked in for this. Never stopped looking locked in for this.
No, yeah, he was back in form. If he ever left it, really.
Well,
he did a little, right? Like Raynor took a world championship off him. Yeah. Clem was beating like Dark in Winters. I just looked it up.
Oliveira won Katowice last year.
It's true, but like even then, he still was like first in Masters EU, ESL Summer, Masters Coliseum 6 and 7, Home Story Cup, TSLs, and even all the stuff he wasn't winning, 3rd place, 3rd to 4th place, 5th place. It's like
I know, but when you say Serral's rounding into shape, he's winning first place. Not he got 3rd place. Way to go, Serral. Neat.
I'm just saying, for the vast majority of time, if there was a player who's getting consistent third places, we would consider them to be a top tier player. And
he is,
like,
of course, he's a top tier player.
But like, we're talking about like, oh, Cyril getting into a slump and he's like rocking in thirds. Like that's, I don't know.
That's the bar you're at. I'm sorry. When Tom Brady was in the NFL,
Who's Tom Brady?
The greatest quarterback ever to play the game.
Okay, sure.
6 championships, more than any other quarterback ever.
Whoop-de-doo.
You understand the concept of a championship. Don't look at me like, I don't know what that means. I don't know sports ball.
Well, hold on. I don't know what a quarterback does, right?
Doesn't matter.
Is it important to the game?
The most important position in football.
Okay. Is that the one with the hoops or the nets?
No nets or hoops. That's the same sport.
Yeah. Okay.
It's wondering where it's football, but only one player is allowed to actually kick the ball with their foot.
Technically, I was thinking netball. That's not basketball.
Yes.
But no, volleyball. Sorry, that's not with the net.
Oh, volleyball. Yeah.
Yeah, all the ball sports. They all look the same to me. Anyway, Wayne Brady, greatest quarterback of all time.
Yeah, Wayne Brady. I'm just saying, when you get to that point where people are like, you're the greatest player ever, and you finish second, people are like, off year. So yeah, I'm sorry that everybody considers Cyril to be like the greatest player ever, and that taking second place is a disappointment for him. But that's where he is. That's it.
Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, sure. I'll bow to your superior sports ball knowledge, and if that's how people think of it, okay.
Well, I'm not saying that's the only way to look at it. It's just the way that I look at it. If you want to look at Cyril and say, oh man, that third place, Cyril's still at the top of his game. Look at that guy go. Then sure, you can do that. I'm not going to do it.
I mean, look, I'm just not going to say I think he's slumming it or anything like that. I don't think he's like...
Yes, I've never asked, why does Cyril suck now in the last year? I can tell you that much.
Right, but like everyone says,
There's
like
a
Reno's
line.
washed up. Like, it's probably half memes, I'll admit that. But like,
Yes.
Reno didn't even make it out of groups. Is he washed?
I mean, no. I think you have to consistently not make it out of groups for more than one tournament for people to say that you're washed.
He didn't make it out of groups at ESL Winter. Literally the tournament last before this.
Holy crap. Did he not?
I don't think he did.
You said he was in the final of that.
No, that was Clem Dark. I was thinking...
Dark.
Yeah. So he was in the knockout stage, which means he got out of the open stage, but the open stage is the open stage. So, like, you know, he was versing Silky and Uko and Vindicta to get there, you know?
Oh, right. Harstem 3-1'd him.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he got beaten by a Protoss when Protoss can't win anything.
And
Come on.
Harstem. Like, I like Harstem. For some reason, he's playing better now that he's got a YouTube channel he puts a ton of time into than he did when he didn't have the YouTube channel, and I don't understand how that works.
Who knows? Who knows?
No, I mean, I don't have any answers. It's just one of the things that I ponder every once in a while.
Right.
Yeah. So hang on. So he qualifies for the knockout stage.
Mm-hmm.
Gets 3-1 by Harstem, and that's it. You done.
Yep.
That's nuts. That's so crazy. And then he doesn't even make the playoff in Katowice.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You know what? I think the questions are fair to ask at this point.
Oh, okay.
2 premier tournaments in a row. Can't even make it to the playoff. That's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's not looking good.
I mean, I'm not saying that he'll never win anything ever again in his entire life, but like something's going on.
I mean, he won in like August last year, Gamers 8. So, you know, he's clearly still winning something.
Yeah, of course.
And like, that wasn't a little tournament, that was 150k prize pool, same as Kato.
Nice.
For first place. So like, he can afford to play for another year. 2, maybe if he stretches it, you know.
Yeah, if.
I gotta keep reminding myself that all the prize pool money is in USD, not Australian.
Right.
So it's always like, to me, it's like $250, 2,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah, 230. Anyway.
Okay, so he was in Group D.
Mm-hmm.
Showtime 2-1 him. Like I say this every time. Showtime can beat Raynor and Serral.
Hmm.
He's like the Protoss that knows them the best, and he did. And then he 2-1 Dark, but ZVZ is a bullshit matchup I don't recognize. Who else beat him? Oh, Hero 2-0'd him. Oh man. But again, Hero's a monster, but like the fact that it's Protoss that are kicking his ass. What is going on?
Right. He also got 2-0'd by Maru.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that one. That's a good one.
Yeah, that makes sense. He 2-0'd Syed. Good for him.
Yeah. Yeah, 5th place in that group. Woo! I mean, that was a brutal group. In all fairness, we talked about it a little bit, but
Oh yeah.
yeah. Crikey!
Goodness grief.
Did I pick him? Do you have who we picked for these groups?
I don't. I remember you got Serral, and that's kind of the only one that matters.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair point. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Anyway, back to Serral. He just goes on it. He goes 10-0 in maps in Group C. He completely sweeps Clem, which is dang impressive. Drops one map to Dark, but again, ZVZ bullshit matchup. And I put no stock in anything in that result. And then 4-0's Maru. Like 7-0 Clem Maru is bonkers.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Did you watch these games? Because you were streaming when this was live, as you often do. So anti-StarCraft 2, you decide to play Brood War every time there's a tournament on.
Pretty much. I mean,
Yeah.
they choose to have this tournament when I'm streaming, I think.
How dare they not look at your schedule beforehand?
I know. They totally should.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, did you watch any of these games while you were streaming?
I had it on a window.
Right.
And I noticed that Radoset Station was, as usual, a giant macro game.
That it only went for like 30 minutes, I want to say, but they also like only 30 minutes,
30.
right? Not by a lot, I don't think.
No, it was like 32 or something. It wasn't
right.
Like way
but
over.
I feel like the big macro maps would mine out at like the 45-minute mark. So it's like it's a big map, but I felt like it still mined out very quickly. Like
sure. The design of the map encourages long games.
Faux show.
That's all.
Yeah. I'm not. But yeah, that was a good game. I was looking at the end. I was watching it at the end. And Pig was saying that like it's possible that Maru maybe could have forced a draw at the end. Because like buildings can lift, and he had Vikings to defend them, and there wasn't a lot of corruptors left lying around.
But corruptors regen health over time, and Vikings
don't.
There's no money.
Right, but
yeah,
I wonder if that was a potential play for him that he missed out on.
Were there enough Vikings to one-shot a corruptor?
I think it was like 6, and there was only like three corruptors. I mean, it wasn't a huge amount on either side.
Yeah, because the way I would see it is Serral pokes in, hits like once on a Viking, and then runs away, and then like waits an hour to heal up, and then comes back in, right?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I don't know. The draw timer would probably hit before a Viking actually died using that strategy, though.
Well, I mean, Serral sled queens, he could transfuse them.
Oh, okay. So yeah, poke in there, get some damage, pull back to the queens, transfuse, go back in. Huh.
That would be my guess. And there was still like a little bit of minerals on the map. I don't think it was literally all gone. So it's possible he could have like mined a little bit and gotten out another corruptor or whatever. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway, could have gone for the draw. That would have been really fun.
Not enough draws in professional games.
No, definitely not.
No.
I did post a TVT draw on my channel a couple weeks ago between Coffee and XY.
Oh, yeah?
Did you see that? No, you did not, based on your reaction.
No, I may have, actually.
It was hilarious. Because, like, XY figured out early enough that he couldn't beat Coffee's composition straight up.
Oh yeah.
So he floats his buildings to a corner, and then like 10 minutes later, Coffee's like, "Rah!" And he goes to attack him, and like his main's empty, and he's like, "Wait, what?"
That's funny.
And all he had was Marines, and XY had like 20 Vikings.
Okay, doesn't
And
look like I watched that one.
Yeah, it's great. It is so funny. Because you could totally see XY figuring out what's going on in this game way before Coffee clocks what's going on.
You know what? I did start watching that one. Like I have time on it.
And then you're like, sucks, I'm out.
Yeah, I was like, it's a TBT. No one likes TBTs.
It's an amazing TBT.
It's 53 minutes.
It is. Those are the best TBTs. And it's not tank line versus tank line TBT. That's what makes it special. There was no moment where it was like, we sit here and stare at each other across this gulf for 30 minutes while someone's gathering the courage to actually attack. Well, they're everywhere. They're just taking bases from each other, and then 3 minutes later it gets stolen back and they're not adequately defending places. It's fantastic.
Okay.
Chinese StarCraft, man. Very funny.
You've titled it Banned from StarCraft. Which one of these players is banned?
He was temporarily banned. Coffee was banned from StarCraft in 2017 for like 2 years.
Really?
For account trading or something like that. He did a match fix.
Just a little itty bitty match fix.
Apparently, I don't know. He didn't cross the threshold that Life did to get banned forever, apparently. You can do a little match fixing and then Blizzard will let you back in, apparently. I don't know.
So NetEase and Blizzard released a statement in 2017 regarding player rule violations in the Chinese SC2 scene. Coffee was banned from all official tournaments for 1.5 years, and Blizzard account permanently closed and all his rewards from related tournaments revoked due to him match fixing and smurfing on others' accounts.
Awesome. What a cool guy.
Yeah.
But he can still compete in StarCraft tournaments to this day. So
well, it was only a temp ban, yeah. I guess that's the difference between like match fixing in a cash cup versus match fixing in the World Cup. You know?
I guess so. I didn't know there was a way to make Blizzard really mad at you for match fixing, but not have them absolutely murder you.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, because it's also a joint ban from NetEase and Blizzard, and NetEase was like the Chinese company that ran all of Blizzard's stuff, like way back in the day. I don't think they even have that contract anymore.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, maybe they were like, let's go soft on him because we need to have some Chinese players.
He's pretty good. We gotta have some representation.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyhows. So yeah, Cyril is a monster when he wants to be. Like that's. But saying that posits the theory that Cyril the other times was like, I don't feel like trying hard. You know? Like, what does that say?
Well, here's the thing. We often describe it as being like Cyril's a monster when he really wants to be. In the same way that like, Maru, if he turns up, Maru's unstoppable. It's like the sentiment is true, but it's not necessarily that Maru just couldn't give a shit one day and played like crap, or that that Cyril was like hungover and decided not to try his best. It's like we're ascribing a feeling to something that we don't actually know the reasons to. Sometimes he just loses. Sometimes the other guy just plays better.
I know, but they were talking about it with Cyril early. They're like, he looks locked in. Like he's winning these games, and it doesn't seem like the other players have a chance. Like it's specifically, I watched more of the group stages because I had more time for that. But he had a match against, I think it was Estrella. And I think it was Pig was just like, look, man, Estrella scouted everything that Cyril was doing. He knew exactly what build he was going, the timing of everything, how it was working, how to deal with it, and he still got wrecked. And it's like, well, one, it's Estrella. If we're not talking about hero or here, right?
Right.
But it's just like, there's nothing you can do. Like they were freaking out a little bit. That's all. Sometimes that's StarCraft, though.
Right. That's just how it is. I mean, yeah,
It's execution.
It's Protoss.
It is. Protoss is just not having the greatest of times the last 2 years at this point.
Yeah, I've had some balance ideas that I'd really like to test out. Which is just like every year in which Protoss doesn't win a premier tournament, Protoss just start with an extra worker, right? Every game. Like just let them have that one extra probe.
Ooh. I'm trying to decide if that would just be instant wins for Protoss.
Because they'd have so much more minerals for cannon rushes.
Yeah. Or in everything. Like,
I don't think
obviously,
so. I don't think one work is enough to do that.
You don't think so? I'm at that level, like at Katowice, top 10 player level in the world. Giving somebody an extra worker at the start of the game really feels like a massive life-changing advantage. Because everything's so optimized, like down to the microscopic detail.
Maybe.
You need to ask a pro player.
Here's the thing. I think Protoss often have like a probe just like hanging out somewhere because they're like, oh, we don't have a door to put in our wall, so we got to leave a probe sitting there like this.
And they always probe scout, so they're missing that probe anyway.
Yeah,
I think. What if you let them probe scout and hatch block and sit in the wall, but not lose a probe by doing that?
They'll be fine. Like they might win a game. That's what we're figuring out. That's yes, that is the intended consequences of the suggested change. Protoss might win a game.
I still feel like I'm gonna tweet at Harstom. Harstom to me.
I had other ideas, but some of them are maybe more or less crazy.
I mean, okay.
So, one of the things I was looking at, which is like Protoss, you get to warp in a lot of units like all at once, right? Because you have warp ins with your gateways. But Terrans, for the same cost as a gateway, and you throw a reactor on there, can get 2 units at once. Like they're just getting out way more units than Protoss is. How are Protoss to win? Well, they're not. That's the point. I was thinking, what if you had an upgrade somewhere that let gateways hold an additional charge?
An additional, like, overcharge?
No, like an additional warp-in charge.
Oh, warp-in. Oh. Yeah.
But it was on, I would balance it, because this is a totally balanced idea, that its secondary charge works off a slow warp-in rate. So if it's building up that second one, it's slower to get it than the initial one, you know?
So, I mean, it wouldn't line up, but every once in a while you get an extra warp-in cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to let them get out a couple more units a little quickly.
Sure, but I don't... So you wouldn't have to build as many gateways to keep up with production.
It's also an option. And maybe they could spend that money on more tech. Or, upgrades. Not a lot of +3 shields out there. Maybe +3 shields could win people games. Who knows? Probably not. Probably not. And then my other option was put all the air upgrades, instead of on the cyber core, put them in the fleet beacon. Fuck them. Like, make them get the fleet beacon if they want to get +1 for their void rays. All right?
Yo. So you take off with this one. Yeah.
No, because my other option is put all of the Twilight Council stuff on the cybercore. Make them slightly more expensive or longer to build, right? Like, don't completely let them have charge at 2 seconds.
But you still have to build the Twilight Council to build units that require a Twilight Council?
What units require a Twilight Council?
No, you're right. Templar Archives.
Templar Archives
requires the Twilight Council.
Maybe make the Templar Archives like you need to get an upgrade to unlock that to keep it later on. I don't know, something ridiculous like that, you know?
They gotta do something. And now's a good time to do it. Katowice is over. Let's chuck something at Protoss and see what happens.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's been too long. I was tracking this. I forgot what it was.
What were you tracking?
It was since the last time a Protoss won a Premier tournament.
Oh, it's 2019.
GSL, like season 2 in 2021 or 2. It was Hero. So let's just look when the last time Hero won a Premier tournament. That's easy.
Or we could just look at Premier tournaments.
Yeah, nope. Mine's faster.
I don't think it is, because what if you're wrong? Hero won it DreamHack Atlanta in 2022.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and that was in, what month is that in?
I can look that up. It was November.
Okay, so November 2022. So it was a year in November of 2023, and we are ticking months by here.
So it's like 14, 15 months. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we can't get to 2 years without a single Protoss tournament win. I'm trying to think of how bad it got for Zerg and Heart of the Swarm, because there was this period where it was like Zerg is bad.
Oh, really?
And they were really struggling, but I don't think they were struggling this bad. I really don't.
So that was Heart of the Swarm, you reckon?
Yeah.
That's something we can look up as well.
Yeah, we can.
So let's see. Life was winning in 2013, so probably not then. Okay, yeah. There's a big gap here, but it's all in like the middle of 2013 where they just went like the entire year where everyone else was winning everything, and then like Life won one thing and then Sulky won another. But I don't think that's what you're talking about. That's like a rough year.
Yeah.
But it's not like...
It's not this. It's not what Protoss is dealing with. No.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. It felt bad back then. So, like, it's so much worse for Protoss now. And it does make... I mean, it really honestly makes me wonder if that's hurting StarCraft 2 view numbers. If
that
there
Protoss
are just... If there are just a bunch of, like, diehard Protoss fans who are like,
we're not getting the matchups in the finals.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, it probably doesn't help that the number 1 ranked Protoss player doesn't want to play an offline event.
That is an excellent point. If like Max Pax was showing up to these friggin' things.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
He's ranked 2. He'll win everything online with like 1 arm time behind his back, but he won't turn up to an offline event. Like, so I think that's probably why a lot of people are just falling back and being like, it's the players who play in offline events, right? Like Hero and Australia and Skillus, all great players, right? But they're not Max Pax. Max Pax is their Serral, you know, he's their Maru, and he's just like, nah, can't be bothered.
But he's not, because he doesn't win these major events.
But he doesn't play them. Maybe he would if he turned up.
I mean, there's a really good chance he would.
He's ranked 2 on a Ligalac. How could he not be?
Look, no, I know. It can't be one dude that you're hinging all of your race's hopes on.
No, but what we usually have is one dude who's like really, really good, figures something out, does something crazy, and everyone else learns from it. But we're not seeing those games from Max Pax because he's not here. Like, right. we're not getting the sick games so that other Protossers can learn from his example. Everyone's like, I want a new Max Pax replay so I can copy a sick build. And he's like, not playing in tournaments, you're not getting my replays. You'll never see me versus a Hero Marine, you know, at an IEM.
Well, not at an IEM, but like at an offline event. Certainly, I've cast a bunch of Max Pax games. He does play against people like Dark and people like Serral and people like Hero Marine, sure.
But for like $400.
Yeah.
He's gonna care less.
Right.
You know, if I was ESL or IEM, whoever, I'd be like, nah, you're not allowed to play in the qualifiers. Like, if you're gonna play in the qualifiers, you have to be willing to actually travel for the offline event as well. I'd make that a stipulation.
Yes.
Because what's the point of having the best player who could potentially like clean up all the qualifier events and then just be like, nah, not doing it. I don't want to have to wear a hat, you know?
Right, I agree. I will sign this change.org petition.
Thank you.
Easy. Good, got it figured out. All right. Anything else we're going to talk about with Katowice?
Seeing Beyond and Mar be like joking around, friendly banter, and it's like that's always fun. It warms the heart. Watch them be like big brothers. Yeah.
Legends having a good time.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it. I think I don't have anything else.
That is nice. Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just anytime Cyril wins a premier tournament, it's like, yeah, kind of saw that coming, I guess.
Yeah. I'm not arguing that point.
Yeah.
It's like, did you see that bit where he was really sick for every game the entire way through? Yeah, he probably did. Yeah.
All right. Good stuff. Way to go, Cyril. You monster.
Good stuff. GG. He has almost like won $1.5 million in prize money at this point.
Pretty good. Lower than I thought.
It's pretty good. Yeah, well, the prize tournaments are lower than they used to be.
Yeah, that's a good point. If he was doing this back in 2013, things would be better.
He'd be over 10 million. Yeah. Yeah.
Back when nobody knew what they were doing. What a good time for StarCraft. And Harding got his championship that you don't recognize.
I recognize it as a championship, just not a world championship, because it wasn't a world championship. He's not a world champion. That's like me throwing a world championship and only inviting the people in my house. It's like, yes, obviously I'm going to crush the 4 people who live here that don't know how to play. That doesn't make me a world champion.
Fair. All right. Is it Warhammer time?
Warhammer! Yay!
No, not yay. Relentless, depressing sadness. Every time, Somicron. Every time. I'm like, ooh, new Warhammer book. All right. And then I get into it and I'm like, what else did I expect other than relentless, depressing, crushing sadness?
I don't know what you're talking about. This book's full of, like, people who bear the word of God. How could that be? How could that bring anything but happiness? So let's start off with some caveats, which is this is the first book in the Horus Heresy that I did not finish. Right when I was doing my first read through, something about it just made me put it down, and I didn't come back to it until like this.
Was it the relentless, crushing sadness?
No.
Okay,
No. Right. That's usually why I turn up, right? And so it's like I can't give you the background behind, like the background lore behind the background lore as much.
Oh no.
For this one, so there's like I'm just less knowledgeable. That's what I'm saying. It's also on the Warhammer book clubs that I listen to as podcasts or YouTube videos have not covered this book. So where I also get my secondary information, I also couldn't pilfer from. So. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I
know more about this than you do.
Well, no, I finished the book now. What are you on about?
Wait, you didn't finish it. You just said that.
No. When the first time I was reading the Horus Heresy, when I was going through all the books.
Oh.
This is where I got up to in the chronological order and was like, I'm going to take a break and just go back to reading other Warhammer.
Okay. So you read it the second time through, and now we're charting new territory.
Yes, now I finished it. But what I will say is the book kind of ran right through me a little bit, so I definitely absorbed it. But there was definitely points in like the second act, like the pilgrimage part, where Argyle Tal is like telling his story to Lorgar, but he's also like just reliving it, and it's jumping between like when and where he is. That was throwing me.
Yep.
Because I imagine in a book it'll at least like have a line break or something to denote that like a different perspective or change or time. In the audiobook, it's italics. Okay, great.
Yep.
You know what that is? You know what italics is in an audiobook? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
They could have done something, but yeah.
They could have done something, but no. So it was a little harder for me to like digest, but I got there. I feel like.
Okay. Good.
So
I'm glad.
This is the first Heretic by Aaron Dembski-Bowden.
Yeah. So it's just interesting how they're approaching the Horus Heresy as a writing exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the 5th book, you discover how it started.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Instead of like in the 1st book.
Well, yeah, that's the interesting thing, because like even in the 1st book, it feels like it's like, okay, so this is where this is starting, right? Like we know that there's this Erebus guy who's like, yeah, got a giant mustache and a top hat, and he's like, "Yes, Horus, dance to my tune," right? Like he's whispering in his ear.
Yeah,
and
he's
like,
oh, okay, perfect. That's it. Yeah,
that's it. But then like, oh no, hey, here's who Erebus is. Let's make his legion, not sympathetic. I mean, a little bit, but like, not like they're believable. They're a believable legion with a believable culture, right? They don't seem like over the top, just puppet master evil anymore, which is good. But then you find out like, no, here's what's actually happening, or why it's happening. And like, the thing that I took away from at the end there is Lorgar being like, this isn't really what I wanted, and him realizing that he has given, like, he wants to give the gift of religion back to humanity, and he's kind of been set aside by Horus. Like, he's realized that, like, oh, we need to bring, like, other people, and then, like, sweet, let's bring in Horus, and then Horus is like, great, I'm in charge, and here's how we're doing it. Blunt force trauma, you know?
Yeah, we have to kill everyone who's not going to help us. It's like, wait, what? What are we doing?
Right.
And we're going to use all of this incredible deceptive strategy and long-term planning to like set this thing up. And Lorgar's like, that's not me. I don't do that stuff. And it's like, look, man, it's a little late now.
Now, right? Oh,
yeah. It's yeah. Yep.
So which was your favorite bit, where they were evacuating the entire city before bombarding it, or the bit where they were eating each other's blood to stay alive on the ship?
Woo! That was some good stuff. One thing my favorite part was when Rabute Gilliman shows up for 5 minutes.
Yeah, so I was literally about to say, we picked this narrative arc in the flowchart because you were like, I want to read about Rabute Gilliman and what he's up to, and then you must have been so happy because he turns up in the first like page, and it's like,
I know, great,
he's here,
and he's a total dick, and I'm like, ooh, this is interesting, and then he's gone forever, and I'm like, ah. Yeah, I thought that was extremely funny. I think everything hinges on the start of the book. The whole heresy hinges on this point right here.
Yeah.
The Emperor teaches there are no gods, there is no magic. Anyone practicing this stuff is a heretic and a liar and needs to be purged. Then friggin' Lorgar is like, no. Like, you are a god, and I'm going to spread belief in you through all these worlds. And he spends a century or more going to all these worlds and spreading the word of the Emperor is God, and they're worshiping the Emperor.
Right.
And everything's great. He feels wonderful about this. He's doing good.
So that's one of the great things that I don't think this book touched on, which is the reason why like the Emperor got the tip off about Lorgar being like worshipping him is literally they looked at the number of planets he had made compliant and was like, that's less than all the other legions. But they're not like a small legion, they're like one of the mid-sized legions. Why are they taking so long? And then they went to the planets and realized they were spending decades on each planet building cities and installing the Emperor as a god, you know?
And like building monuments to him and stuff. Yeah.
Right.
So it's like the TPS reports gave him away. They're like, sales numbers are low. But like, okay. But again, the Emperor is a really powerful telepath.
Also true. Yep.
He never caught a whiff that this was going on.
Well, he can't read the minds from everyone from like the entire galaxy, but right?
Like, all it takes is one day, one afternoon, in one of these 100 years,
So
He catches a whiff of something weird going on, you know?
So it's interesting that you made this point, because when you think about it, there's enough hints to the way Lorgar was raised. Like his like gestation pod or whatever lands on this planet. Colchis is what it's called.
I don't know how to pronounce it. Sure, you guys.
Yeah.
Audio,
Well, here's the thing. There's another Primarch that landed on Chagorus, right?
Boy.
And so I'm just like, which one is it? I can't remember right now. But that as a planet was worshipping the old four, right? Like the Chaos Gods. They were Chaos worshippers. But Lorgar turns up and is having like a bunch of nightmares and visions and stuff. And he's like, oh, the Emperor is coming. Like he's seeing the future is what he is. He has a minor warp gift. Like he's a psycho, but it's very limited. Sees the Emperor's coming and just is like, that's a god. God is coming to save us, right? Like,
right.
And so he spends the next like part of his life inducting a civil war on his home planet and installing the Emperor as a god. And then you know what happens? The Emperor turns up, isn't a god, and still doesn't work it out.
Right! So what? It's just...
So I think there's another book that'll cover this, right? Like the Primarchs will eventually get their own like origin story books. And in it, the Emperor is like, well, okay, if we induct him into the like the Imperial Court and we tutor him on what like the Imperial truth is, he will realize that his visions painted me as a god more than I actually am, and he will less like we can temper his faith as me as a god into just faith in the Imperium, right? And so that's why he's like, okay, you're a little gaudy now, but let's not deal with that as a problem just yet, right? I think the Emperor might have been overconfident in the power of his propaganda, basically.
Okay, so that totally didn't work either.
No.
Yeah.
Colchis. Yeah, there we go. I found it.
Yeah.
Whew.
So anyway, it's just like, poor Lorgar, man. He feels like he's doing the right thing. He's kicking butt. Like, the planets that he leaves are happy. Everyone's getting along.
I mean...
And then the way that he's told he's doing this wrong is...
They come to...
his most beloved planet.
The planet Kerr with the capital city, Monarchia, which they refer to as the perfect city because it is so fervent in its worship to the god Emperor. The Emperor sends Guilliman and is like, hey... go there, and it's interesting because I wonder what the Emperor's never really like a character who's like there talking and doing stuff. Like he is a little bit in some things, like he is in this, but like what was the exact orders that he gave to him? Did Guilliman try to get like? Did he give the evacuation notice to the city because he wanted to save the people, or is that something the Emperor was like, look, burn the city but save the people?
Don't know. He didn't seem mad that the people were alive when he showed up.
I don't think the Emperor would have given a shit personally. All right, I'm just like, is that so? I'm just trying to redirect this to Guilliman because I know you love Guilliman so much,
right?
But does like keeping the people alive, giving Lorgar like a population to like transplant elsewhere, is that a good idea? I don't know.
Well,
would it have been easier if they had all died, Falcon?
Right, because it's like, where did they go? It's like, okay, leave the city, and they're like, okay, we did. We're standing in a field somewhere. Your city is destroyed.
And they're just like, okay, great, rebuild, please.
Yeah.
You've got tithes to match in 60 years.
You're basically killing them anyway. It's very weird.
Yeah, I don't know.
So Guilliman shows up and he's like, you're doing bad things. And Laura's like, no, I'm not. Fuck you.
And then Malkador comes down, right? And is like, you're doing bad things. He's like, no, I'm not. Fuck you.
Yeah. Lorgar is really convinced everything is okay.
Right. And like Malkador says, Malkador's like, these people worship the god, the Emperor as a god. And he's like, oh, so you plead my case for me, right? Yeah. Like, this is a good thing.
I'm not hiding anything.
So Lorgar's first like book of the word is the Lectitio Divinitatis, which from the other books is the imperial faith that's like Euphrates Keeler adopts and Kirill Cinnamon adopts. That's what Lorgar wrote. He gave a copy of all that book to all of his brothers at one point. Like they gathered around for Christmas, and he was like, "Here, I've given you all personalized copies of my book." And a lot of them just like looked at it and went like, "Yeah, thanks," put it on the shelf and not touched it, right?
Right.
Because we've all got that one family member who's just a tad too religious. And is going to give you a copy of their Bible, their handwritten Bible that they made for you.
And you're definitely not going to read it.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's great. But yeah.
So funny.
And
so, you're not going to believe 2 representatives of the Emperor. So that means the Emperor has to show up.
Well, yeah. So the Emperor's here. He's in orbit. And he teleports down.
Because initially I was like, did he teleport from Terra? Holy shit. That's amazing. And then they were like, and then he teleported back into orbit. And I was like, oh, he was here. Okay. But like, if he was here, why not come down in the first place? Why, like, was he hoping that Gilliman would be enough?
Maybe, because like, it's an interesting question. Because like, he knows that Lorgar thinks he's a god, right? And so if he just comes down there and is shamed by his god versus shamed by like the human administrator and one of his brothers, is that a different thing? Like, I think maybe it is.
It's like less shameful. Is what
it's like, it's less likely to utterly fracture his core of personality, like everything, all of his internal tenets, the fact that he still did good work, he still wants to do good work, he still wants to bring people into the Imperium. I think all that breaks because the Emperor is there, right? And the Emperor's there psychically talking to them because his mouth doesn't move. Like, bear that in mind. The Emperor is however many feet tall he wants to be, bedecked in gold armor, and psychically imposing his will into the entire legion to kneel.
Right. And they're aware that this is not what they'd want to do, but they are compelled to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely not a god.
Force projecting super hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and definitely not a god.
Definitely not a god.
So I don't know. I mean, like, Gilliman has this problem in the books we read before, where it's like, all these people worship the Emperor as a god, and no matter what I say to them, they don't listen to me, and no one ever believes me when I...
Right.
Yeah. So it's like, you just can't disabuse people of this notion? Well, until you do, and then bad things happen.
Right, but that might be, like, the point of the book versus, like... the thing that they're trying to say about the Emperor. Because the Emperor's plan is to get rid of all religion, and it almost kind of works. But a lot of the like answers to that, or the retorts, is like, no, faith is something humanity needs. Right? It's just something we cling to. That like ingrained in our nature is to have something. Right? And like the nature of religion is something that'll be continually explored repeatedly. And I think it'll basically come down to the individual reader, whether or not that's an effective argument that like people need it. But basically, we see people who cling to religion or not religion, but faith in a different way, like all over the time. Like there's people who come in and they still worship like Minerva as a warrior god or something, right? Like all these old faiths that you would think have been ignored, and like when they're assumed into the Imperium, but they still somehow managed to keep them, and like when in their darkest times they're still able to reach for that, like because war is constant here and faith is something that's free in war.
Yeah, true.
So whether or not you think that's a good argument for them to be making, I think just comes down to the reader's background.
Right. It varies according to whatever's going on with you.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's very tough love. The Emperor's like, look, we're raising this city because this is the only way to get through to you. Knock it off. Stop doing this.
Right.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Yeah, and then Lorgar descends upon a journey of being like, he says he's not a god, but I believe in gods. I'm gonna go find them.
Mm-hmm.
And then he finds the gods in the warp and is like, gods, awesome. Let's do what they want.
Sort of. That's like...
That's a very short synopsis of what happens here.
Right. So... there's an important thing that I think has been skipped over there, which is Cyrene. Cyrene Valantian. Yeah, because she loses her sight, right, and she becomes the Blessed Lady or whatever. She is someone who, even in her darkest moments, is still willing to serve the Legion in particular, right? Like, and she wasn't a Legion serf before this. Like, it's in her trauma that she has found her way into the Legion, basically, right?
And
like
she did not believe in God until she decided that God exists and he hates her.
My favorite quote in the book. Yes.
Yeah.
You would think that this would have destroyed my faith. In fact, no. When I lost my sight and the perfect city was destroyed, I knew gods were real and they hate us. Right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So that's great. But I think that's an important reminder that, like, Argyltal and Zaphon, they both see her as someone who has remained true to, like, the Imperial tenets through her faith. And, like, so they can't just give up the idea of faith. Like, it's something that's so ingrained to them that they still continue to see as something that works.
I know, but even without her, I think they follow the same path as they do.
I mean, totally possible. I mean,
just didn't think she had much relevance to the story, personally.
Fair enough. I will say she's dead now, but she comes back later, so she's kind of more important in future books.
Oh, fancy. All right.
Yeah. So, you know, Lorgar goes and has a chat with Magnus, who is, you know, doing magic because he's a magus. He's Magnus. Yeah. You'll get to figuring out what he's all about. He kind of he kind of knows that there's gods in the warp, right? Like, he knows that there's giant intelligent Xenos beasts in the warp, and he's like, no, I'm not going to tell you where to go and find them. And then he's like, I'm leaving, and he's like, okay, I now know where to go and find them.
Right.
We'll go on a pilgrimage. Thanks, Magnus. So they go to the Eye of Terror, which it's a warp storm.
Terra, Eye of Terror. How do you differentiate between Terra and terror?
The Eye of not Earth, right?
No, but I mean with your accent. Like, how do you determine that?
Terra and terror. You don't. Like, it is something I'm very aware.
This is why I had to clarify.
Right. Yeah, okay. So when I say it's a warp storm, the Eye of Terror, and is not the planet Terra, that's how you define them. It's the Eye of.
I'm just saying. Somebody who didn't know could have been like, oh yes, the Eye of Terra. Mm-hmm. That's entirely reasonable. Anyway, the Eye of Terror.
Yes, terror. Yeah, which is like a giant warp storm that was from the birth of Slanesh that you found about out in Fulgrim. Like, that's where it happened.
Yep.
So it's a big evil, like, like reality is collapsing in there with the Immaterium. The one that also gets me is Imperium and Imperium.
Yeah.
Because they refer to the Sea of Souls or the Immaterium as the Imperium with an EM, right? But also their empire is the Imperium.
Right.
So that's great. Thanks for that. And while they're there, they find the planet Cadia. And Cadia is really interesting because they kill everyone on Cadia, right?
Eventually.
Yeah. But here's the thing that had me laughing. Like, they kill everyone on Cadia, and they're like, hey, maybe the Imperium will resettle this later, but we have to cover our tracks. We don't want to let people know that we were here.
Right. That
planet's still called Cadia later.
Oh.
Like, nobody who knew it was called Cadia is alive, except for maybe Inglethel or whatever her name is. But she's like a demon at this point, right? And then it's called Cadia still in 40K. Like, I don't know. They could have given it another name. The reference to purple eyes is still a thing that happens in 40k, right? Like all the Cadians born there still end up having purple eyes, and so I think that would have been like a nice little nod to like, hey, it's that planet. And I think calling it Katie is maybe going a stretch too far. But basically,
overt.
Yeah. But basically, these people living underneath the Eye of Terror are Chaos Worshippers. Like they're like in the know with the gods. Which kind of makes sense if like the gods are in the warp and the warp is bleeding through like above them. Kind of makes sense.
Totally does.
Yeah. And they're like, hey, let's summon a demon and he'll be a guide for you as you seek the truth.
Right.
And
this demon is so... I don't even know what word to describe him. Like, so repellent, so inherently disgusting to people who are not from the warp that, like, bringing him into the room makes people just, like, puke.
Yes.
Incredible.
It's great. It's yep.
So then he's like, go in the warp, send your two sons into the warp.
Yeah, I mean that's the interesting thing. Like Lorgar doesn't even like take the lead. He's like, hey, Zaphon, Argultel, why don't you guys go deal with this first?
Well, no,
like,
but the demon suggests that, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does, but like why?
I don't know.
That's the question. I think it's because like there's a point in the book where Argultal is talking to Lorgar, and he's like, we know, like, you say you wouldn't sacrifice your sons for this, but we know you would, right? Like, you wouldn't like it, but we know you would. And that's what he does. He's like, hey, Argultal, go into the warp, follow this warp abomination, right? And just do what it says. Like, and then report back. Tell me if there's, like, a truth in there. It's a wild plan.
Is he like, I'll go, is what you're saying.
Right, yeah. There's no point where he's like, I'll go first. I think it's an interesting point that Lorgar's a coward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is.
So they go on that journey and then they come back like 2 seconds later. Is that what happens? There's a bit where they're like...
It's like 35 seconds.
Yeah.
Like they dump him in the warp and then 35 seconds later you have this hail that's like, help, we're dying. Like, what is happening? Yeah.
And they come back out of the warp and it's like, what happened? You were gone for 35 seconds. Like, it was 7 months. We were gone for 7 months. It's I think the first real bit of warp time fuckery that you've had.
No, they consistently talk about time in the warp being different from time in real space.
They talk about travel time, right? That when you're going somewhere, that like, oh, it could take us months or weeks or years to get across the galaxy, right? And that because it's fast and light travel, but time has no meaning there. But this is the first time you've seen someone who is not traveling or is traveling come and go and have a span of time in between those things in an instant, you know? Like, you haven't seen that yet. You know? Like, it's 35 seconds and also 7 months.
I feel like I have. I was not surprised by this. I was like, it's the warp. That's what it does.
Okay. Would you like to? I don't think you've seen that. But yeah.
Okay, fine. I wasn't surprised. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I'm waiting for the inevitable bit where they go back in time and you get upset with that.
That I will be mad about. Accurate. Yeah. Time compression is different.
Well, I mean, actually, they do go back in time here because in the warp.
Oh no, you're right. I was going to complain about this.
Argultal goes back to the Emperor's laboratory where all the Primarchs. And he's like there. He's like, oh, hey, Horus, you're having a vision here too? We'll just be over here. You guys do your thing.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous. What caused the baby Primarchs to get scattered about throughout the galaxy? Someone that was born a bajillion years later. Sure, okay.
Warp fuckery, man. Warp fuckery.
Ridiculous.
So, you get actually a little conversation about the 2nd and the 11th Primarchs, and they're gone. Yeah,
that was great. It's like Gilliman had something to do with it. The Ultramarines got a ton of new conscripts after they disappeared. It's like, that's a good point.
But they're like, that's just rumors. And it's like, it could just be rumors, or it could be that the 2 remnants of these legions that disappeared, suddenly all those leftover Marines had to go somewhere, and they're just like, stick them in Gulliman's Legion.
Right. They're Ultramarines now.
Yeah. Which you would think that given that all of the Space Marines have different, like, gene seed and, like, express different behaviors.
Yeah.
Right. Because of it. I think they talk about this in this book that Argyle Tal is worried, like he contemplates about how much of their loyalty to Lorgar is gene seed expression versus legitimate faith in him.
Right.
And so you would think that would crop up a little more in the in Gulliman's Legion. Mm-hmm. But who knows? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. We'll have to find out later.
We will.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they just reiterate here that the Emperor forever ago discovered the beings in the warp, made a deal with them. Like, give me your power, and I'll quid pro quo you somehow.
Right.
Was like, thanks, fuckers.
Right. He reneged on a deal somehow. We don't know the exacts of that deal, but yeah.
Yeah. So good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, we just get the slow takeover of Zafin and
Argyle Tal.
Argyle, yeah.
Argyle Tal, yeah. So when after they get back in time to watch the birth of the Primarchs being scattered, Argyle Tal gets convinced by this demon to just lower their own ship's Gellerfield while they're in the warp. Right. And there's a second there where Argyle Tal's just like, what? Did you expect us just to do everything you say? And that is the Emperor's training in the Imperial Truth to not trust warp xenobeasts working, right? It's like they don't immediately just bend over and let a minion of God, right, dictate them to do everything. So it's a nice little keep in mind that the Astartes totally stand up for themselves using what they knew of the Imperial faith to a degree in the time before they all fell, right?
Right.
It's a rare example, but it is there. So basically they lower the field, and Inglethel turns on them all, kills them all. Argyle Tal felt his hearts get ripped out and stop, and
one of them.
Yeah. And then their corpses get possessed by demons.
And then they come back.
And they eat the crew who all died.
Yep.
They drank each other's blood.
Yep, survived months and months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, more than half a year, a few seconds. Yeah, yep. Lorgar immediately detects the demons inside all of them and has them all imprisoned for a bit. But he visits Argyle Tal and writes his story and learns what he hears. And a lot of really unsettling dialogue about how Argyle is smiling, but it's not his smile.
Yeah.
That's always it's creepy to hear.
Yeah. They really do go into how much, whose hands are on the steering wheel at any given moment.
Right. And it switches between them, but they get to I don't want to say they come to an understanding, but Argyle Tal eventually realizes that they're stronger when they're in concert, you know?
Right.
When they're not one's taking over the other. So basically he tells his story to Lorgar, right? And then Lorgar just accepts it as the new truth.
Right.
That's kind of it, right? And he's like, all right, now we will start to bring our brothers over to this, and we'll start working on that. 60 years go by, and the rest of the book's happen. It jumps to Istvan 5.
Right. Yeah, it's very much like there was a lot of work that went into Isfan 5 that we didn't tell you about previously, but dang, there was a lot of work that went into this whole thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And like a lot of it is just the word bearers sending out their chaplains. Like, 'cause that's something that they talk about. Like, all the chaplains get this new version of the Book of Lorgar, which is all of their warp shit. And like Erebus is writing half of it as well. Like, and at this point, what they're explicitly telling you there is that they're writing chaos rituals. That's what that is. They're writing how to do chaos magic rituals. And sending out their chaplains to the other legions. And here's Isfan 5. The word bearers have been asked to take part in the Retribution fleet to bring Horus to justice. And we get some dialogue with some Night Lords. Argyle is still like going through split personality, but now he's like helmet is getting stuck on his head. And he like his hands are turning into claws.
Yeah.
His faceplate is splitting open, but fortunately he's just like hanging out with Serene, and she can't see because she's blind.
Yep. She can't judge him.
Nope.
But then he has like a moment of clarity in there where he looks at his hand again and it's just the regular gauntleted hand. So like
he's seeing the things to come. Like how the demon will reshape his body if it gets full control, basically. Because that is essentially what happens later. Like when he is finally down on Isfan 5 and they're turning on the friendly Raven Guard who was like waving and like, "Sup, brother? Glad to see you. Whew. So glad you're here. Man, that was a rough fight, but you guys can get some glory now too if you want." And he's like, "Open fire."
Yeah, bad times.
Oh, and he has that little like memory of his mother and dad and his sisters who gave him like dog teeth necklaces as mementos, and he's still wearing them on his hand. That's so sweet.
And his sister tried to send a blanket with him, and Erebus was like, "He won't need that."
Erebus is a dick.
It's like, dude, just let him take the stupid blanket.
God, every book, there's a reason to be like, man, Erebus, what a dick.
Consistently.
Consistently. Nice. Right up in, like, literally, including the last book.
You get Isfan, one of the Isfans, and you get Erebus being a dick.
Yeah.
Constance here.
Yeah. So they start killing each other. He's like half in control, then the demon's kind of in control, and then they're joining. And it's very clear that like he's got claws now, right? Like he's finding his claws around people's throats before he even thinks about it, you know?
Like claws with too many joints, I think is one of the phrases in there. Have you seen,
because Argyle is a character model you can play on the model in the game.
Oh.
Have you? Nope. So if you haven't seen his model, okay. This might give you a good picture in your head. There you go. Look at that. Wow, it's taking a while to send.
Got it.
There is Argyle with an Ultramarine just for you.
Nice. Yeah, and like his armor is fused to him.
Like he's talking about like all the Space Marines have like a gland that lets them spit acid, and it's overacted, and he's like spitting a bile that's getting caught in his helmet because he can't take it off, and like his eyes are like he's not crying, but it's not blood. It's not tears, but it's not blood, but it's kind of bloody. It's thicker than oil, but like less thick than oil, but more thick than blood. And he like closes his eyes at one point to like clear them, and he can't open them again.
Right.
And I don't think it recovers from that. I don't think he ever like. I think his eyes are closed, and he's just seeing through his helmet now.
Well, no, because he takes it off.
No, he doesn't.
After the battle, he reverts back, and he takes his helmet off.
Does he?
Yes, because he specifically says that he's smelling the sulfur and the burning stuff of the battlefield instead of having it filtered through his helmet.
No, but that's because his helmet is his face now. He's just smelling.
What?
He can't take his helmet off.
I thought he takes his helmet off.
I don't think he takes his helmet off. You can search the book. I can't search the audiobook. It's a little hard for me. Yeah.
Okay. So like the whole point of the Horus Heresy is that we get backstories for characters that exist in 40K?
I
I mean, that's the whole point, but a big point of it.
that's a big point of it. I don't know if this guy had a model before.
Okay.
Yeah, like that's not something I'm aware of.
Gotcha.
But I know. I mean, I don't want to give you. The demon does talk to Agultal about when he'll die. He's like, it's been foretold that we'll meet our end under the wings, under the great wings or something. Like there's a line in there about when Agultal dies. And so I guess like it's up to you on when that happens. But I'm gonna tell you that that model is to be played in 30K, not 40K. So
Okay.
yeah, he's maybe not around in 40,000 years, in 10,000 more years.
Fair enough. Although he could be.
He could be. He could always come back. Everyone could always come back.
Yeah. It's like right as the battle ends, like they've won.
Yeah, he's just smelling through his helmet now because that's his face. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Creepy stuff.
That's what I said.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything else. Oh, there's the story of but there's the Remembrancer who does photographs.
Oh yes, what was his name? Ishak Kadin.
Yeah, Ishak.
A pictist or a pictologist or
Yeah, they're just always kind of careful to give us some like normal person perspective in these books.
yeah. I'm told that disappears at some point. Yeah.
Oh,
Unfortunately, yeah. Like it's like, hey, remember when this story had humans in it?
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Those are gone.
There's a lot less in this one. Like there's Cyrene, there's Ishtak, and then there's Absalom, Kartik, like the Astromancer. Like there's 3.
Yeah,
We get
And
some
the
like tech
Astromancer's
priests.
barely in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we get like a tech priest or something who's like inducted into the Legion as an honorary member, and he like controls some robots. It's a very little subplot about him. Oh, we do get Custodes, though. You were asking me about memorable Custodes. Do you remember any of these Custodes?
That is true. Yep.
Aquilin.
Aquilin, sure.
Aquilin. Yep. Made good friends with Argyltal. Who then ate his head.
Sure did. Super fast. Not even a struggle.
Yeah.
Just chomp.
Barely an inconvenience.
Yeah.
Ooh. So the Custodes were left to like kind of babysit the word bearers, and then we're like, hey, let's immediately split up in their fleet. You know.
Yeah.
Like, let's not all hang out with like the master of the Legion, Lorgar. Like, nah, let's just like the fleet's so big, they're going all in separate directions. Let's just like split them up. Let's a little bit over here, squad over there, and then sure enough, they get picked off one by one.
Right. The whole part where they are blocking the psychic transmissions from the Custodes to the Emperor using possessed psychers in the walls of the ships is like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. There's a lot to like about this book and just like the weird, creepy, fucked up shit that they do.
Certainly.
Yeah. You still looking?
And then the interesting thing, I'm just like scrolling through and finding stuff I want to talk about.
Okay.
So Erebus is like, we need the Custodes alive. And Argyltal's like, can we just kill them? And he's like, no, we need them alive. We want to reverse engineer the blood from the Custodes to try to do some stuff. To try to take down the Emperor.
Right. And they're like, well, the Custodes are better than Space Marines. Maybe we could like do some studies, send these guys off to the Emperor's Children, I think is like the undertone of what they're suggesting, because the Emperor's Children, big on Space Marine modification. Yes. And he's like, hey, but your Primarchs are closer to the Emperor than Custodes, you know? Why don't we just use them? Like,
right, because they've tried Oh, no. They tried with other like Space Marines and stuff, and it doesn't. They said it didn't go well, right?
Yeah, the Emperor's Children did not go well.
Yeah.
But like the Primarchs, like, oh yeah, good luck convincing a Primarch to just like give us his blood, to do whatever we feel like with.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. So ideally, Erebus would like these custodians alive, but does not happen. The Val Gorback, or whatever they're called, all eat them. The Gal Vorback, yes. The Blessed Sons, as they're called in Colchizian.
Right. So I was like, man, Erebus made such a big deal about getting them alive, and then it doesn't happen for any of them. Like, oh,
no, they all die.
Good job, guys.
nice job.
Erebus is going to be pissed. Okay. Here it is.
Oh, you found it?
Found it. So, yeah.
Takes his helmet off?
They are, the phrase is resuming their Astartes form. So the Gal Vorback and Argoltal and Zafin, after the battle's over, like, morph back into looking like an Astartes.
Right.
So...
Does it explicitly say he takes his helmet off?
Hold on. Argoltal waited an hour for his bones to cease their creak aching. But the sense of relief was nothing short of divine when he disengaged his collar seals and pulled his helm free.
Okay. So he can take his helmet off, but I remember, like, he was with...
He can't for a long time.
Yeah, like, he's with Cyrene, and she's like, look, you've been, like, laying here with your head in my lap. I can't take your helmet off. And he's like, I know. He's like, I'm working on it.
It sucks.
Water. Sugar.
Right, but that's what I thought was interesting. I assumed the transformations would be permanent. They'd just be demons outwardly at this point. But apparently, when they're not fighting, they just go right back to looking like Astartes again.
Which I guess makes sense that they still, like, needed to be able to, like, because he's been possessed for, like, 60 years at this point, and, like, there would have been a lot of time where he needed to pass as an Imperial loyalist.
Well, certainly, but I figured that once they achieved their full transformed demon form, that was it. You're a demon now.
You would think. And
but no.
That is my assumption, and like later on, like now that they're in full-blown heresy, there's not a lot of point to like calming down and going back to being a Space Marine, right? And I think the implication is that they stay like that, because why wouldn't they? Like Chaos Space Marines, from my background, is that is just how they are, right? Like that's the model. The model doesn't change, and like that's...
They haven't sold the transforming Chaos Marine model yet?
No, not yet. But like, it's just in the context of 40k. It's like, why would they ever change back? And like, eventually, I just don't think they can.
Yeah, and I can buy that. Certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting stuff, for sure.
Yeah. And like, even at the very end, Argoltal still seems like regretful over the things he did. Like, he's in his like quarters or whatever on the ship in the Fidelitas Lex, and he's got two weapons in the room with him. One is the Guardian Sphere that killed Zafin from Aquilon, and the other one is a power sword that slew Cyrene. Right? Like, he kept them as like mementos, as like regrets that he has, you know?
Yeah. And that's the thing. If this was just possession, if Argoltal ceases to exist and it's just Ralm, or however you say his name,
Ralm, yeah,
then sure, you're a demon now. There's no reason to masquerade as a Space Marine.
Right.
But Argoltal's in there, 100% conscious, well, most of the time.
Yeah.
And they work better together. So the whole concept of there is Space Marine, there is demon, together they're best.
Right.
So the ability to shift back and forth between forms makes sense to me. But also, as you say, if over time it just turns into full-time demon, that makes sense to me too.
Right. Because there's a quote that like Rom has when he's talking to him. He's like, yes, I've been, because he doesn't talk to him immediately, right? Like he's in there and controlling at times, but he's not like full Gribbon's possession voice in his head. That like, yeah, I've been in you long enough that I've like seeped into every cell in your body. Like I'm now everywhere in it, and like, so maybe it's just like a matter of time that eventually the changes become permanent.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and does that mean that Argyle Tall kind of disappears over time too?
Yeah. Well,
And
I
it's
mean,
only Rome after 10,000 years or however long it is, right?
right. But I mean, if it's emerging, it's whatever Rome and Argyle Tau become together. You know, it's not a host taking over the body. It's emerging. It's an actual joint, right? Like,
yeah.
it's not Rom taking over until there's just less and less Argyle Tau every time until there's nothing. It's still Rom Tau. Tau Rom? Yeah.
Fair enough. So like at some point he just kind of gives up on being Argyle Tall and just kind of embraces the demon side, but he still has his own consciousness.
Kind of. Until they become the one consciousness.
Yeah.
A proper gestalt of beings. It's great.
Yeah. That's such a crazy idea to me.
Really?
I don't know. Can you imagine like sharing your body with another consciousness and then eventually just kind of merging into like a new combined consciousness? You know?
Not the first time I've read this in like 40k.
Nope, you cut out there. Not the first time I read this. What?
In 40k.
Oh, in 40k. This is a 40k thing. Okay.
Yeah, it happens occasionally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's with demons. Sometimes it's like the mechanikists are like, we're going to put all our brains in jars and link them up and become like a big network of brain.
Hive mind.
Yeah, and they kind of become like a one person kind of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So good stuff. I think that's it for this book.
Yeah, I think we covered everything I want to talk about.
Yeah, Cyrene is like blind but frantically typing on a memo pad, being like, I've heard of how you guys talk about Calth, and just remember, and then gets killed. And then Argyle's sitting there reading that over and over again, like Memoirs of a Dead Friend. But yeah, still setting up Calth. It's kind of, I don't know, it's a little weird that Calth, like the word bearers are both Calth and Istvan 5, because like Istvan 5 is the reveal that there's actually 8 legions that are traitor, not just like the initial 4, but then also the word bearers muster at Calth, and the Ultramarines are like, what heresy? I've never heard of this, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of like, I guess they just traveled faster than news did. And like, I mean, not impossible. We've shown that they can block communications like with the Custodes, but you know.
And we showed that Horus did a good job taking all of the Primarchs who would be loyal to the Emperor and putting them far, far, far away from Istvan and Terra.
Also true.
Right?
Yeah. Well, except for the ones that got slaughtered. But yeah.
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 Which is interesting. Like, how did we choose who those were?
So the answer is mostly just size. Like, the Blood Angels, the Ultramarines, and the Dark Angels are just the 3 of the biggest legions.
Mm-hmm.
And then Salamanders, the Iron Hands, the Raven Guard.
Iron Hands are big.
Iron Hands are big, but Ferrus Manus is an idiot.
Yes,
but like,
he is.
Salamanders, Raven Guard, and who's the other one that I'm missing? They're all smaller. That's my point.
Alpha?
No, the Alpha Legion are bad guys.
No, you're right. They were with Horus.
Yeah. I can't. In my head, it's gone blank.
Anyway, point.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's mostly just size. Yeah.
Yeah. And then one point, Cyrene at some point has rejuvenation done to her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean,
and Argyle Tall's like, why?
Right.
Right?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
It is weird because we're like 60 years past their shaming and the destruction of Monarchia. She would have been kept alive a lot. Like, she would have had a...
Yeah, and this isn't the first time. He says that. She's had rejuvenations before, but why this one? And I thought that was interesting that he, like, objected to the most recent one for some reason.
Right. I don't know.
I imagine if she comes back, then maybe that comes back.
Her rejuvenate.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Lol.
I mean, rejuvenate is just like a procedure done to high-ranking people or rich people in 40K, right? Like, it's a thing you can buy.
Your youth, right?
Yeah. There's a great book that I read. Let me pull up. See what it was called. It's gonna take a second to find. It's a Warhammer book, but it's like a crime novel. So the entire thing is about a detective who's just trying to solve a crime, and the crime might be black market rejuvenate treatments where they kidnap young people and drain all their blood, their bone marrow, and then just go and pump it into rich people.
That happens now. I don't know if it works, but that happens now.
It works. It works in 40K.
Yeah, okay. Because of course it does.
Yeah.
That's so horrible.
It's great.
That's so horrible. All right. Okay. Gotta find next book.
Oh yes,
Wait,
yes.
No,
Next book.
it's just there's just a line we're following at this point, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I think we should read Legion next if you can get it.
Let me take a look real quick.
Yeah, you do that. Let me pull open. This spreadsheet, flowchart is a little not loady sometimes. It's great.
It is ginormous and not hosted on a very good server. Correct.
Yeah. But we're
I
here.
just lost it. What's the name of the book again?
Legion.
That is a name of a lot of books.
Legion by Dan Abnett.
There's a Brandon Sanderson book called Legion.
Oh.
There's, oh my gosh, Julie Kagawa. This one looks appropriately Warhammery. There's a Space Marine on the front. That's probably it.
Is he in blue?
Nope.
Oh.
Kind of. It's like in this red haze. It's kind of hard to tell.
Okay.
It says, the secretive warriors of the Alpha Legion discover the true nature of chaos.
That sounds like Legion.
Yeah, that's it. Let's see what's available real fast. It is.
Huzzah.
Cool.
Yeah.
How many pages is this sucker?
Probably medium size. It's not too big, I think.
The other one is over, well, it's not actually 1,000 pages, but in my reader, that's what it is.
Okay, yeah.
It's like 1,100 pages was the last one, and this one's only 844. So
Yeah,
definitely
smaller.
shorter.
It's great.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Wonderful. We'll do that one.
Yep.
Although I don't know. There's some part of me that was reading this and I was like, okay, so another story of how a Primarch fell to chaos. And then Isfen happens. And so I was like, okay, so this book's going to be how another Primarch fell to chaos and then Isfen happens, huh? Okay. Like, I know what we're doing, guys. I've caught on to the pattern at this point.
Well, eventually we'll move on. It's just kind of how it goes. I am reliably informed that this one does not end in Istvan. I can promise you.
Okay, good.
I mean,
seriously, I got to the first Heretic and was like, we're going to Istvan. And I was like, I bet we are.
So here's the thing. You know that the Alpha Legion ends up at Istvan.
Yes, I sure do.
Right. I don't think that this one just goes through the motion of telling you they're at Istvan. Like, you know they're at Istvan.
Yeah, we do. We know what they do. Yep.
Yeah. You're gonna love this book. It's so good.
Okay.
Yep.
Expectations up.
Good. It's worth. Alrighty.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up then. I have some kids to tell to do homework and stuff.
All right. Wrap it up.
Great. So that is going to be it from us today. This has been Falcon Paladin and Somicron on the Falcon Paladin Hour, broadcast live at twitch.tv/Somicron. We're here every week at this time. So if you want to see us live, that's how the VODs show up on youtube.com/@Somicron. Pretty much immediately after we stream. And if you want to support the podcast, you can do so at patreon.com/Somicron and falconpaladin.store. So thanks for being here, Duddles and Aki and Phil and Bovine here live. Hope you guys are doing great. And we'll be here in like a week.
In a week, less than a week.
Less than a week.
An hour and a half. Yeah.
Hey, you're ruining it. All right. So until then, stay safe and stay healthy. And above all, you take care of yourselves. Goodbye.